What's up, everyone? Welcome to season 4 of MyBLVD Podcast. This season, we're doing something special. I am here with my co-host, Missy. Say what's up to the people, Missy.
Hello. I'm so excited to join you, Dhati. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk about the who, what, when, where, how, and why of urban missions.
That's right. This season, we are going to be walking through together, like live, real conversations. We're going to be talking about real questions, really practical wisdom about how to do ministry in urban environments.
Yeah, this is going to be a primer for all of us. So let's join this journey. Let's grow, learn, and push forward urban missions together.
Stay tuned. This season, we're going to talk about how you can do ministry where you live, where you work, and where you worship. So let's go.
Let's go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to season 4, episode 1. Right? That's like, I think this is the longest I've ever survived in any type of podcast environment. I know you are a professional, and everything, but this is season 4, episode 1 of season 4. And this year we're doing something different. I'm here with my co-host, Missie Branch.
I like being a co-host. It's fun.
Yes,
it should be fun.
I'm excited. I'm excited about this time. I'm excited about kind of this, the environment, and so Missy, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Who is Missie Branch?
Yes.
I am the wife of the Ambassador Branch. He doesn't go by the Ambassador Branch, by the way.
No.
But I'm the wife of the Ambassador. I'm a mom of 4. I am a student. Well, I graduated. Dang.
Graduation. That's
I
a thing.
graduated,
That's exciting.
Right. I am now working with MyBLVD and very, very excited to be a part of the team. I have a heart for urban missions. I have a heart for the city. I'm from Philadelphia, and so it's who I am. It's where I
Not
should
just
be.
Philly, but West Philly.
Yeah,
and there goes the song planning in your head right now.
Everywhere I go.
Like it's
Everywhere
just
I
like
go.
that's like I wasn't gonna sing the song, but I knew that
Yes.
you had that, so I was not gonna sing the song. But it was already in the minds
Yes.
of the people.
Literally, no matter where I go. I mean, rural, the middle of nowhere. If I say West Philadelphia, people say
Born and raised.
Right? Yes.
And the playground is where I spend. Yeah,
Yes,
I mean, and that,
yeah.
but that is good because you're going to be pulling from decades of wisdom that is coming from of just being there. Yeah, and so I'm excited because this season we are going to be talking about all things urban.
Yes.
Right. And we're just going to be diving into this idea, and this question, what is urban? Why urban? All of these things. And we're just going to take a podcast at a time and just walk through.
I like it.
that.
I like it.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited about it because, not only am I co-hosting with Missy, I am serving alongside Missy. She is our new president, CEO of the MyBLVD family. And I'm just really excited to be working
president.
alongside with you. Well, I'm just like CEO. I don't know. The titles, we're working on all of that. I'm just glad for you to be here. You guys got to understand. You guys understand, right? Ever since 1996, I think it was, I was in an elevator. And I still remember the elevator. It was about 1.5 miles from where we are currently sitting.
Wow.
That I was walking in and I saw Missie Branch. At the time, she was the ambassador's wife.
Yes.
Because he was the MC, and that's when my life kind of changed because for the first time that I understood the power of contextualization, right? This idea of man, as a dude that wasn't raised in the church, didn't know much about church at all, but now in my first year of being a believer, I was just I already started going to church and they started telling me, you got to wear a suit, you got to do all these things. And I was like, no. And so I went to this Impact conference and I saw your husband and he was up there. He was like, yo, Jesus is Lord. And all these things. I was like, yes, I understand this dude. I understand him. And then so I was just God gripped my heart. And so from it's just I knew that I needed to be mentored, whatever, by this man. And then I remember the first time it was just and I saw you and it was that's the ambassador's wife.
Yeah,
And
I probably
was
said
it.
no words too.
No, you did not. You did not say any words.
No.
You just I don't remember words coming out of your mouth.
No.
But I remember seeing that. But but now a couple of decades later,
Yes,
from
friendship with the family, kids, the whole 9.
all of
Yes.
that, now that I've learned where the real magic and the real power
Oh,
is, and so it is so exciting to be a part. But so Missy, what are we going to be talking about?
Today we're going to just dive into what is urban.
What is urban? I think that's an important thing because if we're going to talk about urban, we got to start with what is.
I think people take for granted what it means or what it could mean. I think we sometimes fill in our own things. But if you would have I went to Chat GPT and I said, what is urban? And it spit out these words. It said, it often pertains to the culture, lifestyle, and infrastructure associated with densely populated areas.
I think that's good. I mean, since ChatGPT is the authority on all things now, it is the first place.
I've run into some drama with ChatGPT. Yes.
I mean, but it seems like it's the first place that we all go to now.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple.
It is simple. Yeah. It is simple because and I'm good with that because when I think about urban, the way I've always defined urban is just simply density and diversity.
Yes.
Right. Density and diversity, and I think that kind of characterizes because I'll never forget. It was actually I was coming and I was talking about urban, and I went to a place called the Urban Outfitter. I walked in to the Urban Outfitter. And I said, there's nothing urban about this outfitter, right? And I was just like,
something's not right. He didn't have this definition.
No.
Right? Yes. Yes.
That wasn't the definition at that Urban Outfitter. And that's when I was like, oh, we are in a new urban.
Yeah.
Because there was a time that when you thought urban simply meant inner city.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
You can all the culturally, densely, all that. It would just meant inner city, and that's all we thought when it was urban. And even today, as I go around and I talk to different people, as soon as an African American man, I say urban, they're thinking inner city.
Right.
So no matter what, so even today, even though there's definitions, there's different things, everyone is using the word urban. Now it's kind of like who's saying it. Right.
Yeah. But what I do think is interesting is that people have embraced urban culture without ever having to really be a part of an urban community. Yeah. And so you can go to churches in rural places, which I have, and see pastors dressed in Jordans and hoodies. And really they have embraced the culture, not necessarily lifestyle or infrastructure and all those other things. And so there is an urban, Oh,
I was in this rural mountain town, but it was like where the how every mountain town has like a little city where you can walk around.
They call that the inner city. It's downtown, but it's like 2 blocks, but that's the inner city.
The inner city, and there was a place we went to called Urban Coffee.
And you were like, what's
urban about this? On any depth, like ChatGPT's definition, our definition.
Yes.
Like, I don't even think it fit the Urban Outfitters definition of urban, but that was.
There was a town that Deuce and I lived in for a while. And I remember someone kept saying, well, we got to go to the inner city. And it was really just because there was a set of projects. There was just a set of projects and everything else was rural. And they kept calling it the inner city. And I was like, there's got to be an outer city of some point. Yes. Like we got to have a little outer city for that to be an inner city. That's just buildings. They're just close, right? It's not.
That is. Yes. So when you think about kind of urban, like, you are a West Philly girl, raised up in what we would traditionally call urban growing up, how would you describe urban if someone was to come to you and say like, what is urban?
For me, it always felt like access, especially having lived in a lot of different places, different countries. My father was in the military. So urban just always felt like there was access. I have access to this space, access to these people, access to this food, access to this community, access to these this location. It just felt like access in a way that other places don't. Like you can hop on a train and be in another part of a city that is so different from the part that I'm from. And so it almost felt like the world was all here.
Yeah. I love that. Access. I think another word I think about is like walkability. Yes, right. It's a place where people are actually outside. Yeah.
Walking is what we did.
Yes. I mean, because growing up in New Orleans, when my dad played for the Saints, like we grew up in New Orleans in the city, and it was just kind of like we used to have rules like go outside. You cannot be inside.
No.
Right. And,
I didn't want to be inside.
Yeah, you didn't want to be inside. Yeah.
Yes.
That meant chores.
Yes.
And the only rule that we had was be inside before
street lights come on.
Before the street lights came on.
We can't do that no more.
No, it's
the kids
not.
Can't live like that no more.
Because
our mamas didn't even know where we were in these urban spaces.
Yes, they did not. They did not. There was so much trust going on, but no. And so, but I think that's important for us to understand. So a lot of our kind of like, it's not just kind of book knowledge around kind of what urban is, but it's also just kind of lived experience of urban, right? Yes. You growing up in the Northeast, me moving around. we moved around to so many places. I grew up in the West Coast, lived in New Orleans, lived in Canada, I used to ask my parents, like, are we running from the cops? Because we was moving so much. But I found out that we weren't. I found out that we weren't. But we would always move into the city. We never. Yes. I don't ever remember. Well, actually, there was a time for my middle school that I lived out in Paris, which is in California, which is not France.
I'm going to say,
no, not
you
France.
had a problem with that? And also, it's urban.
No, yes, it is. No, Paris, California. For those of those from Cali, y'all know. So we was out in the sticks. But outside of that, I've always lived in cities. I always lived in things. And I constantly tell people, like, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. But the reason why I live in Atlanta, Georgia, in the city, like the real Atlanta, not because like I'm suffering for the Lord or even that I'm some missionary for the Lord. I'm here because even if I was a non-believer, I prefer living in city.
Yeah.
And that's just me. And that's not for everybody, but that's for me. And so I live in the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
All this, the historical part, the old Fourth Ward here in Atlanta, Georgia. But what's unique about it is that this is, I think, a lot of times characterized what I would consider the new urban.
Yes.
The new urban. And that's a different urban than, the urban we grew up in when we was talking about urban.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with a gentrified urban.
Yeah.
I grew up with this urban is just whatever it just became. This is what it is. And so you walked through the parts and just were like, man, this part of the city is like this. Yeah. And then you go to another part and you're like, oh, this part of the city is like, this is where the colleges are. It's different than where the people live.
Yeah. So I just remember ever since my experience with the Urban Outfitter, that like when I was developing this new urban, I was just like, I was on this new journey to find out, okay, what is the new urban? And I really feel like the Old Fourth Ward characterizes it because, here I live in a neighborhood, the Old Fourth Ward, which is the largest Section 8 housing in all of the Southeast is our neighborhood. Okay. But it is the fastest growing gentrifying community. Right. And so we have both of these worlds. So we have Pond City Market, we got belt lines, we have all of these things, right? 2.1 million square feet of like live, work, play in all of these worlds. And they're all kind of right here in this neighborhood. So it's just kind of like, I feel like that determines like the new urban. But when I go around and I share about kind of this idea of the new urban, and even when we talk about Boulevard, I am talking about majority, minority, multi-ethnic, right? Because that's where you get the density and the diversity, in that. And so, so I think that majority, minority, multi-ethnic, and let me just say this, when I think about majority, minority, I think about that in one or two ways, like Atlanta, where African Americans are the majority. And so it's 55% African American. So it's majority, minority. The other way you can talk about majority minority is when there is not one race that it has the majority, right? So like a place like San Jose, where the largest population is still Anglo, but it's 40%. Wow. It's 40% Anglo. So there's no major place that is. And so what ends up happening is when we think about kind of the new urban centers right now are already at the place where America will be. They say by the year 2045, America will become a majority minority country, right? But there'll still be more white people, more Anglos, but they would dip under the 50%. And that's ultimately where we're going. And so when we're talking about urban, we're talking about ministering to where America is going, where America is right now in cities, but also where America is going. So we can no longer quarantine urban to a department, one person in your seminary, one person in your faculty, one person in your business, one person, right? And to say, hey, you're over all of urban. You've got, you're over all of urban. No, urban is here and it's here now.
What is beautiful, I think, about the idea that America is changing is that as you think about being in urban spaces, but you think about bringing the gospel, you're actually bringing the gospel to the world because the world is coming here. They're coming here to learn. They're coming here for work. They're coming here for help. And so when you live in these urban spaces, you actually are not, like you said, they're densely populated, but they're populated with such a variety of people that one, you get to experience so much, but you really do get to minister to the world without even having to leave your neighborhood.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, and so and what you were saying is kind of my third D. You're gonna learn.
Yes,
I'm alliteration, and
Such
that's
a
just
preacher.
I am. That's just what I do.
Yes.
But they got density, you have diversity, but
Yes.
you talk about the differences. That's disparity, right? Because in urban environments, like I was sharing, is like gentrifying, right?
Yes.
Section 8, like all in. And this is like there's the middle class in our neighborhood basically lives in they're in apartments, right? They're younger apartment, because it's sort of like what you have here in our neighborhood. You have either Section 8 or you got $1 million homes, and it's just kind of like, okay, no one can afford these $1 million homes, so right. And so what happens
is dramatic.
Yeah, it is. And so then that disparity, that's different. So you go from educated to uneducated. You have all the different things. And I think that is so important when you're doing ministry in urban environments, because historically the church, has thought about, like, when we do ministry to urban environments, it's kind of like a parachute. We're just going to come in, parachute, drop off some turkeys, and then go back. But what about for those that are doing ministry in urban environments? What does that look like? And I know this season we're going to just dive into all of that, and thinking through all of that different things. But it's important for us to be able to name when we say what is urban, so everybody kind of has a working, right? So one, density, diversity, disparity, right?
Yes.
And I think that is those are critical. You have any other D's to add to that, or because you gotta keep with the D's?
I would say just dope.
Just dope.
Yes.
I love the dope. That is. It's dope.
I mean, really do believe that as a young girl from a space there was a lot of disparity. My mom was a single woman. By the time I was raised by my mom and not with my dad, the world was my community. The whole world, my whole world was this community, but this community was diverse. This community did offer me so much opportunity. And so I was just, there's a lot of dopeness there.
Dope. I love it. That's the fourth D right there. It's dope. And, and so when we talk about engaging, with it, we're going to talk about, and I got two more D's, a whole lot of dignity and a whole lot of discipleship.
I love it.
And I think that is really, and if you maintain those words, that with each and every person that you bring, you would see the inherent dignity that they have, the imago Dei in them. Oftentimes my wife and I, we talk to our children, and we would constantly say, hey, you got to understand two things. One is people are people.
Yes.
And number two is everybody has a story.
Yep.
And whenever you learn their story, right, and you understand that people are people, that is you ascribe and you understand the imago Dei, the image of God in those people. And, and that we all are needed when we come to be discipled into the Lord. So like if we're thinking about kind of engaging in the urban dignity and discipleship, I think it's going to be critical.
Yeah, those are my jam. So I like talking about those.
All right. Well, this is it. We're excited. We're excited about kind of jumping in with you guys this season. We want to just kick it off, talk about what is urban. And, until next time.
Yep. It's going to be a great one.
Peace.